I think it's a difficult challenge how different types of support from the state, from the instruments of the state through different programs and projects converge at the community level. And I think there are three things that I would say. The first thing is that the kind of investment we've made in national and subnational institutions, the same kind of investment needs to happen at the local level institution as well. Our local governments are closer to reality, but they are under-resourced, both in terms of capacities as well as funding. So I think, how do we have planning capacity, coordination capacity, conceptualizing capacity, implementation capacity at the level of the government? The second thing is that the feedback loop from the ground to up really needs to be much stronger than it is right now in most countries. And it is a very challenging thing to accomplish, because especially when you are dealing with manifestations of extreme risk, there is expectation from the government to be decisive, creating a that you're decisive versus, having a more adaptive approach are somewhat there is a tension between the two, at least in terms of public perception. And I don't know how that can really be resolved. So I think that is really, I almost would like to say that we need to create some sort of a social demand for adaptive governance. When governments change their decisions or modify their decisions, there should be greater appreciation for that. That should be seen not as a reflection of not knowing their mind, but it should be seen as a reflection of responding to feedback from the ground. So that is the second point. My third point is that while we talk a lot about how things converge at a particular community or a particular geographical unit at the local level, we perhaps do not talk enough about how these things connect horizontally. So, we talk about leadership of communities, leadership of community groups, women. All of that is extremely important. But who plays the coordination role between one community and the other? In the current risk scenario globally, everybody lives downstream. So what's happening in one community or the actions taken in one community or not taken in one community will have implications for the others. So even the sort of legislative instruments that we have, they talk about levels. They talk about national, subnational, local levels, but they do not talk about how these things cohere horizontally. I think that is a challenge we need to address. And this challenge came particularly alive in the context of the pandemic. So, if there is one state which is, a state or one local government which is enforcing certain kind of, non-pharmacological interventions, and the adjoining one is not doing that, then the effect of one gets sort of nullified. So who plays that coordination role? We must realize that despite all the best knowledge at the community level, lived experience at the community level, in certain respects, there will always be some blind spots at that level. And there has to be a mechanism to sort of overcome that. And I think there should be, that's where we need to exercise our imagination. So these are my three big things. One is we really need to have a greater investment in local governments in terms of capacities. The second thing is that a feedback loop, social demand for adaptive governance, and finally, some mechanism for horizontal coordination between communities.